When Laura Finch arrived at the storage facility, she was already late. The sun was sinking low behind a line of industrial buildings, casting long shadows across the cracked asphalt. The place looked abandoned at first glance. Rows of metal units painted a tired beige, a flickering security light near the office, weeds pushing up through every seam. But the gate was open, and the keypad display glowed faintly, as if waiting. Laura parked and sat in the car for a moment longer than necessary, hands resting on the steering wheel. The voicemail from the lawyer replayed in her head. Personal effects, unpaid unit 30 days before disposal. Her mother's voice used to sound impatient when things were unfinished. Laura wondered what it would sound like now, if it existed at all. She stepped out of the car. The air smelled of dust and warm metal. The office door creaked open easily. Inside, a man sat behind the counter, hunched over a ledger. He looked up immediately, as if he'd been expecting her. "You're here for Unit 317, he said. Laura blinked. "Yes. How did you?" "It's written," he replied, tapping the ledger. She signed where he pointed without reading closely. Her name looked strange in the fluorescent light, slightly off, like someone else's handwriting copied carefully. "Gate stays unlocked until 7, the man said. "After that, you shouldn't still be inside." "I won't be." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "People say that too." Laura drove slowly down the narrow lane between storage rows, tires crunching over gravel. The units stretched farther than she'd expected. Each door identical. Each lock rusted just enough to look used. Unit 317 sat near the back, where the facility bordered a strip of woods. The trees pressed close to the fence, branches tangled and unmoving despite a faint breeze. Laura unlocked the unit and rolled the door up. The smell hit her first. Not rot, not mold. Something dry, old, like paper stored too long in heat. Inside were boxes stacked neatly, labeled in her mother's handwriting. Clothes, books, kitchenware. Everything cataloged with care that felt almost obsessive. Laura exhaled. This was manageable. This was just sorting. Then she noticed the shelf at the back. It hadn't been mentioned in the inventory. A single metal shelf held 4 identical cardboard boxes, unmarked. They were positioned carefully, evenly spaced, as if alignment mattered. Laura stepped closer and opened the first box. Photographs, not family photos.
Surveillance style image.
Grainy, distant shots of people walking alone. A woman at a bus stop. A man unlocking his apartment door. A child standing on a sidewalk, staring directly at the camera. Laura's stomach tightened. The second box contained notebooks, dates, locations, observations written in her mother's precise script. Subject shows signs of hesitation before entering home. Routine stable. Attachment forming. "Mom," Laura whispered. The third box was empty except for a folded piece of paper. Her name was written on it. The fourth box contained a small digital recorder. Laura stared at it for a long moment before pressing play. Her mother's voice filled the unit, calm and clear. "If you're hearing this, it means I didn't stop in time. And if you're hearing it here, it means they're already watching you." Laura's heart hammered painfully. "You need to understand something," the recording continued. "Some people don't disappear because they're taken. They disappear because they're finished. And when they are, someone else has to take their place." Footsteps crunched on gravel outside the unit. Laura froze. The recorder clicked off. A shadow passed slowly across the open doorway, not hurried, not curious. Waiting. Laura backed deeper into the unit, pulse roaring in her ears, as the realization settled heavily in her chest. This storage unit was never meant to be emptied. It was meant to be inherited. Laura didn't move for several seconds after the shadow passed. Her body locked in place, muscles taut, breath shallow and controlled. The storage unit felt smaller now, the metal walls close enough to press against her thoughts. She waited for another sound. A cough, a shuffle, anything that would confirm she wasn't imagining it. Nothing came. Slowly, she stepped toward the opening and peered out. The gravel lane was empty, but the security light at the far end flickered, then steadied, casting elongated shadows that didn't quite match the shapes beneath them. Laura forced herself to breathe normally and reached for her phone. No signal. She wasn't surprised. That realization scared her more than the lack of service itself. Laura rolled the storage door down halfway, leaving a narrow slit of daylight, and leaned against the shelf to steady herself. Her eyes kept drifting back to the boxes, to her name written in her mother's careful hand. This wasn't grief. This was preparation. She picked up one of the notebooks again, flipping pages faster now, scanning instead of reading. Patterns emerged, the same phrases repeated across different entries. Attachment forming, resistance minimal, routine stabilized. The handwriting didn't change. The tone didn't waver. Her mother hadn't been documenting crimes. She'd been documenting transitions. The recorder clicked as Laura pressed play again, her hands trembling. "You'll think at first that this is a mistake," her mother's voice said. "That I was paranoid, obsessive. But pay attention to how often the same people appear in the same places. How rarely anyone truly leaves once they settle." The recording paused, then resumed with a softer tone. "I tried to stop once. That's how I learned you can't just walk away. You have to be replaced." Laura's throat tightened. "Replaced by what?" she whispered, though she knew her mother couldn't answer. Footsteps sounded again outside. Closer this time. Not rushed, not cautious, deliberate. Laura snapped the recorder off and slid it into her pocket. She stepped back as a figure appeared in the narrow gap beneath the half-closed door. A man crouched, peering inside. He was middle-aged, his expression calm, almost apologetic. "You shouldn't listen to those," he said gently. "They cause unnecessary distress." Laura grabbed the nearest object, a metal tool from one of the boxes, and raised it defensively. "Get away from me." The man held up his hands. "I'm not here to hurt you." "Then why are you here?" He hesitated, then sighed. "Because you're behind schedule." Laura's pulse spiked. "I don't know what you're talking about." "That's normal," he replied. "At first." He straightened and glanced toward the office. "It's getting close to 7. "So what?" Laura demanded. "So if you're still inside after that," he said, "it gets complicated." Laura didn't wait for clarification. She shoved past him, sprinting down the gravel lane toward her car. The man didn't chase her. He simply watched, his expression unreadable. Her car started immediately. Relief surged through her, sharp and fleeting. She threw it into gear and sped toward the gate. The open gate. She passed through it without resistance, tires hitting the road hard as she accelerated away from the facility. Her breath came in shaky bursts. She laughed once, hysterically. Then the road curved. Laura slowed. The storage facility appeared again on her right. Same gate, same flickering light, same office. "No," she whispered. She drove past it. The road looped gently and brought her right back to the entrance. This time the gate was closed. Laura slammed on the brakes, chest heaving. She jumped out of the car and ran to the keypad, pounding numbers at random. The screen lit up. "Unit 317, access granted." The gate slid open. Behind her, the office door creaked. The ledger man stepped out, closing the door carefully behind him. "You weren't supposed to leave yet," he said. Laura backed away slowly. "This isn't real." He smiled faintly. "It's extremely real." "Where's my mother?" Laura demanded. The man tilted his head. "She finished her work." "What does that mean?" "It means she stopped being necessary." Laura's stomach twisted violently. "You killed her." The man shook his head. "No." She stayed. The ground beneath Laura's feet vibrated faintly, like a distant engine starting. "You don't disappear here," he continued. You're absorbed, folded in. That's why storage works so well. People are already used to putting things away. Laura felt the air thicken, pressing in on her chest. Memories flickered, moments with her mother that felt suddenly incomplete, like scenes missing frames. You trained her, Laura said. She volunteered, the man replied. At first. Then she understood. The vibration grew stronger. From the far end of the facility, other doors began to open. One by one, slowly. Inside each unit stood shelves. Inside each shelf stood boxes, identical to hers. Laura stumbled backward, terror rising into something sharper. Rage. I won't do this, she said. The man met her gaze. Everyone says that. The lights flickered. And then, somewhere deep beneath the concrete, something shifted. Not awakening, but adjusting, as if responding to resistance. Laura realized then that the facility wasn't a location. It was a process, and she was already inside it. Laura ran. Not blindly, not in panic, with the sharp, focused desperation of someone who understands that hesitation is the real trap. She sprinted between the rows of storage units as doors continued to rise around her, metal screeching against metal in a slow, deliberate rhythm. The sound wasn't chaotic. It was coordinated, timed. Inside the open units, she saw variations of the same thing. Boxes, shelves, ledgers, recorders. In some units, photographs were pinned to cork boards. In others, walls were lined with handwritten schedules, routines mapped down to the minute. Names appeared everywhere, some familiar, some crossed out, some circled heavily in red. People weren't stored here as bodies. They were stored as processes. Laura ducked into one of the units and slammed the door down just enough to block the view, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The air inside vibrated faintly, humming with the same low frequency she'd felt beneath her feet earlier. It wasn't sound exactly, more like pressure, a reminder that something larger was running continuously beneath the surface. Her phone buzzed. She flinched, then pulled it out. No signal, but a voice memo app was open. Recording. She hadn't pressed it. Her mother's voice filled the cramped space, clearer than before. You're probably scared right now, it said. That's good. Fear means you haven't settled yet. Laura's eyes burned. You did this to me, she whispered. I tried not to, the recording continued. I delayed. I rerouted. I changed criteria. But the system compensates. It always finds a successor. The word hit harder than anything else. Successor. This place doesn't just store people, her mother said. It stores functions, observers, stabilizers, continuity managers. Someone has to watch the watchers. Laura slid down against the wall, shaking. I thought I could dismantle it from inside. The voice went on. I thought if I documented everything, if I slowed the intake, if I reduced replacements, but systems like this don't end. They adapt. Footsteps echoed outside the unit. Closer now. Multiple sets. You were never meant to inherit my fear, her mother said softly. You were meant to inherit my position. Laura squeezed her eyes shut. No, she said aloud. I won't. The recorder clicked off. The storage door rattled as someone touched it. Not pulling, just resting a hand there, feeling for her presence. Laura, the ledger man's voice said gently. You don't need to hide. You've already been processed. She pushed herself to her feet. What does that mean? She shouted back. It means the system recognizes you, he replied. Your patterns, your hesitation, your attachment thresholds. You're already integrated at a preliminary level. Laura laughed, sharp, broken. Then why do you need me here? A pause. Because your mother is failing, he admitted. The vibration deepened, the hum growing uneven. She resisted longer than expected, he continued. Her metrics degraded. Emotional interference increased. That's why she prepared you. The truth slid into place with sickening clarity. Her mother hadn't been protecting her. She'd been training her. Laura burst from the unit and ran straight toward the office building, shoving past figures who reached for her without urgency. No one tackled her. No one restrained her. They moved like people following protocol, adjusting routes rather than forcing outcomes. Inside the office, the ledger lay open on the desk. Laura grabbed it. The pages were warm. She flipped through frantically, scanning names and dates until she reached the final section, a grid of metrics instead of names. At the top of the page, succession status. 2 entries blinked faintly, ink darkening and lightening as if breathing. Finch M. Degrading. Finch L. Pending. Laura slammed the ledger shut. The walls shuddered. The hum beneath the floor spiked, then wavered. From somewhere deep within the facility came a sound that made Laura's stomach drop. Not mechanical, not human. A strained, unsteady rhythm, like a system running without proper supervision. "You don't have to do this," the ledger man said from the doorway. "If you take your place, she can rest. The system will stabilize." Laura backed away, clutching the ledger to her chest. "And if I don't?" He hesitated. "Then it will compensate." The implication was clear. Others would be pulled in, faster, less carefully. The facility trembled again, lights flickering violently now. Doors jammed halfway. Alarms began to chirp, not loud enough to panic, just enough to signal deviation. Laura thought of the photos, the notebooks, the quiet, careful lives documented and boxed away. She thought of her mother's voice, calm, tired, resigned. "I won't replace her," Laura said, "but I won't let it keep running like this either." She slammed the ledger onto the floor and tore the pages out. The reaction was immediate. The hum roared, the vibration throwing her off balance as lights shattered overhead. Figures staggered, clutching their heads as routines unraveled without reference points. "What are you doing?" the ledger man shouted, panic cracking his composure for the first time. Laura ripped faster, pages scattering across the floor like shed skin. "I'm unassigning," she screamed back. The ground buckled. Somewhere beneath them, something collapsed inward. Not exploding, not dying, but losing alignment. Laura ran. She didn't know where she was going, only that the exit sign flickered ahead, unstable but real. She burst through the office door and sprinted toward the gate as the facility convulsed behind her. The gate stood open. Beyond it, the road stretched forward, not looping, not curving back. Real. Laura crossed it just as the ground behind her gave one final, violent shudder. Silence followed. Weeks later, the storage facility was condemned after a structural failure. No one could explain why records were incomplete, why units stood empty with no sign of contents ever having existed. Laura never spoke publicly about what she'd found, but sometimes, late at night, she wakes with the sensation of being watched. Not by something hostile, but by something uncertain, as if a system somewhere is trying to determine whether it still needs her. And sometimes, when she drives past storage facilities, she notices the gates, whether they're open, and whether they're waiting,